Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Cabinet on Tuesday, 19th of January, 3 p.m. And I hope you're all having a good day at the moment. Okay, first and foremost, I'd like to welcome everybody. I think we've got quite a few councillors who are joining us. I'm assuming that you may want to ask questions. For question time, we've got 30 minutes set aside, and I'll try and give everybody a fair crack of the whip in terms of getting around to everybody. So please be patient. Item number 1, membership of the Cabinet. We've got a full set of Cabinet members here today. The only person I've got who's apologised is Councillor Muskan. Her apologies, she's not feeling well. I've asked her just to take some time out and just have some rest. I hope she recovers quickly and hopefully she'll be back with us soon. Item 2, minutes of previous meeting. Can I move the correct record? Are we okay with that, members?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Item 3, if you've got any interest, please complete the form and email that back to Andrea, who will then make a record of that for public record. Admission of the public. We've got at least one member, 2 people from the public who are here. There may be more watching, so welcome to our members of the public. There are no deputations or petitions. Item 6, I've got 6 questions from the public. So first question is from James Taylor. Andrea, the question's to me. Can you please read that question and I will answer it? Thanks.
Thanks, Chair. The question is, does it seem ironic and of double standards that anyone who wants to make an objection to a planning application now has their address published in the public domain by Kirklees Council, yet out of the 9 Cabinet members at today's meeting, 7 of you have decided against having your home address published on the Kirklees website?
Thank you, James, for that excellent question. Firstly, I think there's been some miscommunication around this issue. And I've looked into it in a lot of detail. The Cabinet and myself, we've had a long conversation. And the bottom line is that there is a change of policy. But if anybody wants to withhold their details, i.e. name or address, they can still do that. So basically, anybody who is going to be objecting to any planning application that might come forward in the council, if you want to object and say that I don't want my details to be published, we will honour that. So there's been some miscommunication somewhere, but that's always been the policy. It might be an idea if in the future, if there are issues like this that come up, is to just check the policy out. So I hope that clarifies it. The same applies to elected members. If elected members want to have their names and address and personal details published with the declaration of interest, they can do. But on the back of what happened a few years ago, especially on the murder of Joe Cox and various security arrangements with other MPs and elected members, the government agreed that elected members can, if they want, withhold their personal details. And the same applies to anybody who's objecting to any planning application. If you want to withhold your details, you tell us, we will make sure that happens. Thank you. Andrea, you want to go on to the next question, please?
Yep, the next question is, I've asked Shabir before who runs the council, elected members or officers, and Shabir has always answered that he's in charge as leader. If that's still the case, why did elected members, including the Chair of Strategic Planning, confirm at the full council meeting that I watched online on Wednesday that he knew nothing of these new changes to planning representations, and the vast majority of other councillors and members of the public knew nothing until reading it in the Examiner? So who made these changes, you as leader without consultation, or officers?
I can't answer for Steve Hall in terms of his response or the other councillors who actually also made an issue out of this. I also can't answer for the Examiner in terms of what they print and what they don't print. I can only reiterate that the policy has always been clear. The changes are very, very clear. If you want to withhold your personal details from an objection on a planning application, you can do. That is very, very clear. Thanks, Andrea. Can we go to the next question, please?
Yeah, Chair, the next question is also from James Taylor. On the 6th of January 2021, West Yorkshire Police tweeted, following numerous complaints from members of the public to the police regarding the overflowing bins and litter on the Princess of Wales precinct. In partnership with Kirklees Council, the area was tidied up in no time. Is this a good use of police time, them having to contact the council to get bins emptied in the town centre, and shouldn't it happen regularly without the public contacting the police?
Thank you, Andrea. Councillor Paul Davies, can I ask you to answer this question, please?
Yep, sure. Again, thanks, James, for your question. Just to clarify, the Princess of Wales precinct is actually a private area of the town centre, so not the responsibility of the council to maintain. However, we certainly recognise it's important that we work with our partners and the owner of this particular area to ensure the area is clean. This was done in this instance, and I'm sure the tidy up has been welcomed by the people visiting the town centre. In terms of good use of police time, I would say that's probably a decision that the police themselves can take and could communicate to you. But what I will say is that we absolutely value the excellent relationship and partnership working we have with the police. That is really a fantastic benefit to our citizens. And also, I'd like to say that they deserve, like many other frontline workers, some great credit for what they've been doing within our communities during these difficult times.
Thank you, Councillor Paul Davies. Andrea, do you want to read the next question, please? Question 4.
Next question is also from James Taylor. In Saturday's Examiner, there was a report stating a new law will ban travellers from setting up camp on private land, and those who break the law will be fined up to £2,500 and jailed for up to 3 months, according to reports. The Telegraph says the change in the law will be announced next week, allowing police to seize vehicles and arrest people who refuse to move on when told to do so. The change would make intentional trespass a criminal offence. Landowners currently face court battles that can take days or weeks before getting an order allowing them to remove travellers from their sites because trespass is currently a civil offence. Does Cabinet welcome this move by the government, with all the upset that many residents have suffered over the past few years in Kirklees from travellers?
Councillor Graham Turner. Oh, sorry, Councillor Graham Turner.
Yeah,
do you want to answer that, please?
Yeah, thanks, Shabir. Thanks, James, for the question. I am aware of the consultation that ran until the 4th of March 2020 in relation to this above matter, and I'm waiting the Home Office to release the relevant information. As you'll appreciate, I don't read the Telegraph, so I've not seen the article you refer to. And until the legislation is actually published, any thoughts or comments are pure speculation. So we'll have to have a look at the legislation when it's actually published. We have had 18 unauthorised encampments over the last 12 months on Kirklees lands, and there have been many other unauthorised encampments on private land. Just to point out, the police have always had the power to remove travellers under Section 61 of the Criminal Justice and Public Order Act 1994. However, I believe that the legislation that you referred to will be to strengthen those powers under Section 61. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Graham Turner. Next question is from Andy Leader. Question 5 to Councillor Mather. Andrea, do you want to read the question, please?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Mr. Leader says, thank you for explaining the Council's approach to Ramsden Road, Councillor Mather. Could you please provide a date for completion of repairs on Ramsden Road?
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Mr. Leader, for asking this question. As you remember from the last time you asked a similar question, I did stress that we were working with Friends Group, local landowners and ward members on the design of how best to manage this popular site. Once this is complete, then we will be in a better position to understand timescales. We are also presently awaiting on Yorkshire Water to have availability to discuss water management of the route. And you know, we're currently in a pandemic and COVID is impacting all timescales. And we will be in touch as soon as we know what these timescales are. At the moment, we're lucky to be providing services as normal, although this is normal time, not normal times. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Naheed Mather. Next question is again from Mr. Andy Leader, again to Councillor Naheed Mather. Andrea, do you want to read the question out, please?
Yeah. Peak and Northern Footpath Society have recently surveyed all public paths in the Colne Valley. We found over 230 paths with more than 350 problems, making them difficult or impossible for the public to use. What extra resources and help can be provided to assist frontline council staff in resolving these issues?
Thank you. Thank you, Leader. Mr. Leader, I'd love to put on additional resources into our rights of way, especially given their importance to active travel. And we do have plans in the future. However, at the moment, our resources are stretched as a council, as the council is supporting communities and businesses through the pandemic, as well as the very important testing and vaccination programme. If there are communities or groups that do want to roll up their sleeves and help out in the meantime, then I will do everything I can to support them. Just for your information, they can contact Andy Wickham, who is our volunteer coordinator for Colne Valley. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mather, for the responses, and thank you to James and Andy for the questions. Really appreciated. We'll move on to item 7 now. Question by elected members. We've got 30 minutes for the questions. So the first person I have on my screen is Martin. Councillor Martin Ball. Question from you, Martin.
Thank you, Shabir.
Thank you.
You've just in response to Mr. Taylor's question, you've just said that the situation with planning has always been that way. It's been the policy, etc. James did ask you who made policy. In this case, can I refer you to what your staff have said, that the development management privacy policy regarding the publication of planning comments on the website has recently been reviewed and updated following consultation with the council's legal officer and information governance. No mention about elected members, no mention about stakeholders, and certainly no mention about yourself or cabinet members. So to refer back, why are officers dictating policy which affects the public on this council when you've said that's your job?
Martin, I think the issue is can members of the public object and have they got a right to withhold their information? I think that's the essence of the debate, and that's what we need to focus on. We need to focus on our residents. I've been very, very clear that there's been some miscommunication, and part of that miscommunication has been yourself, Martin, to be honest with you, right? Yeah, I would have actually expected you to actually have come to me before the issue was actually highlighted in the council. If we are genuine about making sure that we genuinely represent our constituents irrespective of which party we are in, yeah, a number of councillors do contact me, right? Yeah, and I do resolve the issues. And Martin, you know for really well that when you respond on an email to me, I get back to you either straight away or within the same day. So I think, you know, let's just accept that there's been a miscommunication here. Let's not get into trivial politics. I've been absolutely clear. The officers have used their common sense. They've been doing the right thing. And the policy has been reviewed, you're correct, but the policy that is reviewed, yeah, has got provision in there to enable members of the public to withhold their information. So, you know, I think that's good news. So let's not make things complicated, Martin. And once again, I ask you, right, yeah, not to politicize things. Let's keep focused on the outcome that we are looking for residents, and that way we'll be able to have a better working relationship, right, yeah. And I'll be quite happily work with you and help you wherever I can. But I can't do with you actually always politicising everything, because that's not going to be in any interest to any of our residents. Thanks.
Supplementary, please.
Supplementary, yes.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between what you view as politicising and what the majority of council view as holding the executive to account. But to give context to that, you've said if we approach you, you will resolve issues. Over 12 months ago, I took up an issue on behalf of a Batley resident where a greenway in Batley had draconian barriers stopping him and a young toddler at the time going through over 12 months ago, and those barriers are still in place. So how much time does it take you as the leader of the council to resolve an issue? And it doesn't even work when we approach you directly in your own area.
That's another one that you're trying to actually score points on. You are scoring points. You don't even know the background to it. You don't even know the area. Yeah, you just jump on to a bandwagon. You want to come on the council's website, waste everybody's time, yeah, and make some issue out of something that's not an issue. Let me tell you the facts. I have taken that issue very, very seriously. I have visited that area myself. The barrier there at the moment, we have got a number of residents, right, who live in that area. You need to live in that area, Martin, and go up there. We have got a big issue around motorcycles. Yeah, if we actually try and change anything, yeah, it will allow their motorcycles to actually go in from the Greenway onto Batley Park, terrorise the neighbours that are living on Brookroyd, on Upper Batley, on Wilton Estate, on Carlinghouse. Yeah, so I've got 14,000 of my residents, at least 20% of them are actually being haunted and terrorised by the cyclists. And you giving me a lecture coming from Murfield about how I should behave in my ward is not completely out of order, Martin. I never ever criticise you when you bring issues to me. I always take them seriously.
You just have done.
But you're making your Martin, please.
If you just rewind, you just have done.
Martin, if you are serious about working with me and building a relationship in helping your residents, fine. But I will not take lectures from you, Martin, in terms of how I should be behaving with my constituents. If my constituents tell me that this is causing a nuisance, right, yeah, that's a higher priority.
That's what Mr.
Next
Knight
question,
did.
we'll move
Mr.
on to
Knight told
next
you it was
question,
a
please.
priority.
Andrew, who's the next person? Is it Alex Lowchick? Alex, question from you, please.
Thank you, Shabir. I'd like to ask you, please, why do my constituents in Dewsbury now have to pay to park in their town centre, but your constituents and those in a number of other Kirklees towns can continue to take advantage of free town centre parking?
We are going to review the whole of the parking situation, and what we have in Dewsbury and what we have in Huddersfield is a situation that we have had for many, many years. And we've always accepted, right, yeah, that both Huddersfield and Dewsbury are our regional centres within North Kirklees and within South Kirklees. So you can't have it on the one hand by saying that actually we want all this money coming in, right, yeah, and you want to be a regional centre and we want to try and put investment in them areas. But then you want to then be saying that actually we should be treated the same way as say, for example, Hickman-Wyke or Birstall, where we don't, actually treat them centres the same. So it's not as straightforward as why is it that we are here and you are there. The argument can be relayed everywhere else. But what we are going to be doing, and I think I've told you and he's told you, that we are going to be reviewing car parking as a whole issue as we move forward. Have you got supplementary, Alex?
Yes, please. I'm just wondering, are you sure that it's appropriate to connect car parking, which is a revenue income, with capital investment?
I think they're both separate issues. But the reason why we have car parking, and I don't want to go into the semantics and the detail of that, but car parking has got a very clear purpose in terms of making sure that we allow people to park in Dewsbury or Huddersfield, yeah, fairly and squarely. Because these, like I said, are two big local centres. Car parking is limited. And if you are going to go shopping, for example, in B&Q, there's a sign there that you're more than welcome to come here. You can park for 2 hours. If you're going to be parking for more than 2 hours, you'll get clamped. And the number of other places in the town are similar. So same with our car parking. For people who are using our car parking, we will make sure that, we charge a fair price. But at the same time, we'll make sure that, there's a good churn so people have a fair crack of the whip in terms of parking the cars there. Next question, thank you, Alex. Next question is Councillor John Lawson.
Thank you, Chair. Brief question. It may be hidden in the panel's notes, but has our council applied to the National Leisure Recovery Fund, the £100 million fund for places like Cal? Right,
which cabinet member wants to take that? Just put your hand up. Graham, are you flashing? Oh, sorry, Nahid. Yeah. The National Recovery Fund. From what John's saying, have we made any bids against that? Graham, do you want to come?
We've made a bid. The bid had to be in last week, I believe. I can't remember the exact date. It's been a big challenge to get the information because apparently there was a whole raft of information that required dozens of spreadsheets. But yes, we have made a bid into that.
Thank you, Graham. Thanks, John. Supplementary?
Okay, could I? Yes, please. I'm glad to hear that. It was quite a turnaround. It was the 15th of January, wasn't it? The bids were supposed to be in noon, 15th of January. So I'm glad to hear that we've got something in. Could I ask what kind of amount we're looking at? It did describe notional amounts at the beginning in the application criteria, but what kind of funds are we looking at, and what is going to be spent on?
We made a bid, and we'll have to wait for the outcome of that bid. We were thinking we would possibly get somewhere in the region of about $1 million to 1.1 million, but obviously that depends on how they assess the criteria when they get all the information. But that's the sort of figure we were optimistic about. Hopefully it may be more, but optimistically 1 to 1 million. And as you rightly point out, the turnaround was really tight. And I would like to thank the officers and Cal who worked tirelessly between Christmas, New Year, and after to get all the information, because it was a very, very difficult task to apply for this loan. But as I say, hopefully between 1 and 1 million is our hope.
Thank you, Councillor Graham Turner, and thanks, John, for the question. Councillor Will Simpson. Will, you got a question? Are you there, Will?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you very much, Chair, and hello, Cabinet. It's nice to see you all. My brief comment and question is for Councillor Mather, Cabinet Member for Environment. I just wanted to take a moment of your time to recognise and congratulate the officers and everyone involved in the development of the play area at Manor Rise Park in Newsham Ward, which has been recognised with a National Award for Design. It is a fantastic facility, and the officers who worked on it have done a fantastic job there, but they've also done a fantastic job in my ward as well, where Councillor Turner and I have worked with them closely on the development of the play area at Skelmanthorpe Rec, and if I may say so myself, it is fantastic. I was just wondering if you could elaborate slightly, Naheed, on the Design Award and what it means for our continuing commitment to invest in our play areas across the borough.
Thank you, Councillor Simpson, for asking that question. We were delighted to accept the award, which was for our landscape architects for having provided an outstanding design. And I wanted to actually read some of what they said. So on 18th of December, they said, "I am delighted to announce that your entry has been chosen for a special judges award in the street design. They were extremely impressed with what the council had achieved for the budget and felt that it was a fantastic example of good practice." And some of the things that they said was a special mention for the entry from Kirklees, which was felt was worthy of commendation for such a fantastically good use of what was a very limited budget and choosing imaginative, creative design that truly values play on the sort of sites that they were so quick and easy to develop. Which were originally dull solutions could so easily have been chosen, i.e. the normal equipment that we are used to seeing in open spaces. This is again a programme of huge labour administration investment, and it's something that we are very proud of and something that we will continue to work on with our councillors on a place making setting. It's just a pity that some of it was halted because of the pandemic. When people talk about what have you been doing, and some councillors jump up and down regularly saying you're not doing enough and being critical. For the past year or so, we have been dealing very effectively with the current pandemic, and the officers have worked and have been redeployed in making sure that our communities get a continuing services in those areas considered to be a priority. So I was really, really pleased, and it had to take an opposition councillor in Kirklees to throw some dust at it by point scoring rather than celebrating an award. We were told that we weren't good enough. So thank you for bringing this to my attention and for me being able to actually say congratulations to our staff and Kirklees Council. Thank you, Will.
If nobody else is ready, come on, clock's ticking. Don't tell him he's on mute.
He is.
Yeah, but don't tell him.
Councillor Pandor, your microphone's muted.
Shh, don't tell him, Andrea.
Sorry. Thank you, Andrea, for letting us know that my mic's muted. I'm asking everybody else to unmute themselves. Anyway, Councillor Alison Munro, question to you, please.
Hello, Shabir. Thank you very much. My question is, does the council believe that a scrutiny panel will be able to adequately address accountability of the West Yorkshire Mayor?
At the moment, we have got only one scrutiny committee in the West Yorkshire Combined Authority. In the new arrangements, there'll be at least 2, if not 3, but all that detail is to be ironed out. And at the moment, in terms of number of councillors that can be involved in scrutiny is very, very limited. My understanding is that there'll be a lot more councillors who will actually have involved in the new structure. So although not perfect, it's going to be a lot better than what we have now. And the whole idea of having an elected mayor is that person is elected every 4 years. He or she will be up for election. And what better way to actually hold someone to account when they're actually directly elected? Supplementary, Councillor Munro?
Yes, please. Yes. So isn't it the case, though, that wouldn't it have been better to have an accountability panel, because that would give it more edge as opposed to a scrutiny panel?
Yeah, I can understand what you're saying, and I got sympathy with what you're saying, Alison. But we are dictated in terms of what we can do and what we can't do in terms of whatever the law says, and within the law, then we've got to develop a structure. But what I will do is I'll feed that back in to the Combined Authority to have some kind of a panel. I think it's a good idea.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Shabir.
Thank you. Right, Martin, do you want to come back in? And then if anybody else wants to have a second bite of the cherry, we've got about 10 minutes left. So, thank Martin, no doubt you've got another question?
Yeah, question to Councillor Pattison, please.
Yes.
Councillor Pattison, you quoted in various media, not just the Huddersfield Examiner, which Shabir doesn't seem to like, but you were quoted in various media on a campaign that you're running in partnership with the police. This was to address nuisance motorbikes, and it was said that a partnership with the council and the police would tackle the problem in Kirklees hotspots. You said nuisance bikes don't only cause high levels of noise pollution, they can be intimidating for local communities. And carrying on, if nuisance bikes are causing problems in your local community, then please report them online to West Yorkshire Police Antisocial Behaviour. This behaviour will not and should not be tolerated in Kirklees. Could you supply, if not now, then by written answer, the number of activity days that the police have had with regards to nuisance motorbikes? And also, could we have those broken down by wards in terms of where the public have reported issues with nuisance motorbikes, please?
Thank you, Martin, for that question, because yes, it has been throughout the pandemic a real nuisance, not just motorbikes, but souped up cars as well, going around neighbourhoods. I can't understand what is in the mind of anyone who wants to do it, to be honest. I certainly know of some particular activity days, and I know that the police have successfully seized something like 8 cars and had made 40 fines during those activity days, but I haven't got the information for the whole of Kirklees, and I'll certainly ask for that and provide a written answer for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol Patterson. Martin, you've got supplementary?
No, Carol said you give me a written answer, so if anybody else has a question.
Okay. No, yeah, just for the record, I've got nothing against the examiner. I've got a really good working relationship with the editor, Wayne Ankers, and also a good working relationship with Robert Sutcliffe, attorney Tony Earnshaw, Nick Lavigueur, and even Martin Shaw. Right? Yeah, I've known Martin Shaw for many, many years. He was the first person I came across when I won in 2002, and he did a really fantastic piece of journalism. When I got elected in 2002, he gave me a full coverage. So I've got no problems in working with any of the our reporters or papers. So just to be clear, Martin, I've got no problem with the examiner. Anyway, any more questions from anybody? I can't. Andrea, am I missing anybody who wants to? Is that it? Right. Thank you very much, members. We'll move on to the
half an
agenda.
hour?
But we've got no more questions, Martin. Unless you know. So
yes, if there's still time.
If you want to ask another question, Martin, you can do. I thought you didn't want to ask another one. Anyway,
thank you. Yeah, thank you. Probably Paul is this. Calderdale are seeing a lot of work going into national flood or natural flood defence measures, such as slow the flow, tree planting, leaky dams, and offline storage. What measures has Kirklees been taking in our Pennine uplands to reduce the flow of water into the valley bottoms and ultimately into Murfield?
Well, thank you, Martin. Certainly, I know my predecessor, Councillor Walker, has done a lot of work, in particular in the Colne Valley, but trying to spread that work further across Kirklees, and there is an activity next week, an online activity on future landscapes, which I'm fairly certain addresses an element of this, and looking at what we can do in conjunction with partners. In terms of the precise activities, I can certainly come back to you on that. It is most definitely part of our ongoing agenda. So very happy, Martin, to come back to you with a more detailed and precise answer. But certainly, if there's
Martin,
anything,
got a supplementary.
Well, just bear with me just 2 seconds. I was just going to say.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. It's okay, leader. I was just going to say, Martin, be very welcome as well. I was going to say, if you have got some thoughts, ideas on this, please, very welcome to engage with you. And also, if you're aware of any other groups that are working on this as well within your area, please let me know. But yeah, I will come back to you with a detailed response.
Right. Thanks, Paul.
So,
Martin?
Supplementary then. Thanks for that, Paul. Could we look at setting up then something? I know about a Kirklees-wide natural or flood defence group. Let's involve people from all over the district, because whilst the people, as you say, up the Colne and home valleys may need to get involved in doing the work, and the landowners, it's the people further down Murfield, Ravensthorpe and Dewsbury ultimately suffer the floods, because just in case anybody's not aware, at Cooper Bridge we see the confluence of the rivers Home, Colne and Calder, and the huge catchment area of the water that brings down the valleys is everything from Castle Hill going around Home, Moss going up the Western Valley and round up to Tomberden. All that water from those Pennine catchment areas ultimately ends up at Cooper Bridge, Murfield, Ravensthorpe and Dewsbury. So could we look at forming or bringing together people who have got an interest either in protecting their area or using natural flood and other measures in things like offline storage? There will be valley bottoms, former sewage works and things, which we might be able to use as temporary flood zones, as they do in Castleford, York and Selby. So again, the idea of a Kirklees-wide group of landowners, interested parties and the statutory authorities may help us in this area.
Thank you, man. I think that's a very good suggestion. I'm aware of the flooding in Murfield. I lived in Norristhorpe and Dewsbury when I first moved to Kirklees, and witnessed a lot of the flooding down there, and so know exactly what you're talking about. Let me pick that one up, Martin. I'll have a chat with Colin. We'll look at how this would work as well. I think another avenue for this will be definitely to look at how this could link into our climate commission that we're setting up as well. But thanks for that. I will get back to you. I think good thought. We need to think about the stakeholders across the region, across Kirklees, as well as within the valleys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Paul, and thanks, Martin. Good suggestion. Will, I see your comments on screen, so I'm assuming you want to speak. Will?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. I thought I couldn't let Martin have all the fun, so I thought I might as well come back in. It's just there will be a question at the end of it. I thought it might be helpful, given Councillor Munro's comments, just to reflect that Council did ask corporate governance and audit to look into the West Yorkshire scrutiny arrangements, and I'm chair of that committee, so that work has been ongoing. There was a workshop I think it was last week, where we invited members of all political groups and none across the council to get their ideas about how we'd like Kirklees to contribute to creating scrutiny arrangements that work for us, rather than just copying and pasting other combined authorities from elsewhere. So I thought that would be a helpful contribution to Councillor Munro and stop Martin from having all the fun. But I appreciate I can't just make a speech. I've got to ask a question. So Councillor Turner attended that workshop. Councillor Turner, did you find it helpful? Speech, but anyway, have you got a question, Will?
It's called filibustering, Will.
Never heard of it, Martin, but Councillor Turner was there, and can you reflect on that, Graham?
Okay, no problem. Right, thank you. So, have you got a question, Will? You haven't got a question.
No, he hadn't. He just wanted to ruin my fun, like he said in the chat show.
No, he said he wanted me to reflect on the workshop last week.
Oh, right, okay, right.
So I will give you.
So do you want to respond back to
So I said I'll speak again just to ruin Martin's fun.
On the workshop?
No, I'm quite happy. There was a fairly well attended meeting last. Yeah, there was a fairly well attended meeting last week.
You're on mute, Graham, I think.
I'm not.
You're on mute.
No, it's not. We can hear him if you stop talking.
Right, we'll start again. Are we all ready?
IT, anyway.
Don't blame the IT.
Yeah, well.
There was a meeting last week of the various political parties to discuss how we would hold whoever the new mayor is to account, and it was a really useful, worthwhile session. So many suggestions came out of that, and that's now going to be worked up into policy, and that will be obviously part of that will be down to what the mayor wishes to do. So. Yeah, and as Liz Mays correctly points out, scrutiny was also part of the meeting. So yeah, we came up with several ideas, and that's all being worked up now, ready for whenever we get the new elected mayor, whether it's May or later in the year. But yeah, that work is ongoing.
Yeah, so I think Alison's question is just wrote it there. Alison saying, so why are we pursuing a scrutiny panel? And that was her question, to be fair. That rather than have a scrutiny panel, what about the other things that she's talked about, which I will take back to the combined authority, because I think they were good ideas, because there's other ways to engage with people. And I think what Martin suggested to Paul, I think that's a good idea as well, regarding the flood defences. We want more people involved as possible, and I think that's a good suggestion. So we will hopefully Martin and Paul will connect after the meeting, and we'll try and get something in there. So. Thanks again for the questions, members. I really appreciate it. And we need to move on now. Oh, sorry, Martin, you got another question?
Yes, thanks. I think we finished at 15:41. I think.
Yeah. No, I didn't see it, but that's yeah.
Kirklees, in line with West Yorkshire, is pursuing the construction of a number of active travel corridors. Most recently, converting canal towpaths going up the Colne Valley. It's okay building these, but what thoughts are being given to maintenance? When we built the Penn Valley Greenway, we included a maintenance element. Originally, it was the Rotund Gordon North who was the warden there, and did a very good job of not only maintaining the Greenway, but keeping antisocial behaviour down. Shouldn't we be looking at maintaining our active travel corridors?
Absolutely. Who wants to answer that? Peter?
Yeah. I couldn't agree more, Martin. I think I remember going to a major lecture by an engineer at it was a national event, and he talked about if you're going to invest a substantial sum of money in anything, do consider all the running costs of, and if you're not prepared, don't bother building it, because, Martin, you're absolutely right. We should have built into any programme a programme of maintenance. And unfortunately, with most marketing, we don't necessarily. So we often have situations where we sort of patch up and botch up when we should have a permanent arrangement for the upkeep of given infrastructure. I entirely agree with you, Martin.
Thank you very much, Councillor Peter McBride. Martin, you got a supplementary?
Just again, thank you for that. So on the work that's ongoing now, the consultation and probably second phase up the Colne Valley, that's owned by the Canal and Rivers Trust. If we're giving them, and we're talking Bradley to Brighouse, if we're going to be giving them several millions of pounds, can we ensure then that they agree to the maintenance of it, Peter?
I hope we could, but this is done in conjunction with the government, because this is government money essentially. But I agree, it should be an integral part of the funding and the offering. And I would certainly do my best to ensure that we do give such a guarantee.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. And Graham's put a comment on saying that the Mayor will have a huge budget and responsibilities. So it's only right that we hold whoever the Mayor is to account. Right, okay, that's our half an hour up. So thanks very much again to members. We'll move on to item 8, which is to present a report on annual Reaper update. Councillor Graham Turner.
Chair, thank you. This is the annual report that is brought today to Cabinet for noting. As in previous years, we have not had any reasons to use Reaper during the last 12 months, so it's a fairly bland report. As you will have noted, an inspection took place in July 2020. This was done as a telephone inspection in place of a physical one for obvious reasons. Following the inspection, the Commissioner wrote to the Chief Exec, indicating that he was satisfied that there was an appropriate level of compliance, which actually removed the need for a physical inspection to be carried out. Key points that the Commissioner noted were that all recommendations from the 2016 physical inspection report had been implemented, so all training had taken place, or has taken place. The Reaper policy has been updated to include changes and has been reviewed in 2020. Chair, I simply ask Cabinet to note this report.
Thank you, Councillor Graham Turner. I'd like to second that. No one wants to speak, so Andrea, do you want to take the roll call, please?
As it's just a note, Chair, we just take a show of hands, that's fine.
Right, okay. So, right. Thanks a lot. Item 9 is housing revenue account, rent and service charge setting, and key housing challenges. Can I invite Councillor Cassie Scott to introduce this item and speak on it?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. You have to bear with me. I've had a bit of connectivity problems, so I'm going to be cantering through this to make sure I get it through. So the report comes before Cabinet for the annual rent setting service charge and the HRA budget. I just thought it'd be of value for people out there to understand that what the actual rents and the HRA revenue account is actually used for, and it's about supporting tenants. We have an enhanced lettable standard, and it's about supplying decorating and carpets and blinds for tenants that are eligible to that service. These are vulnerable tenants. We also supply furniture packs to people. Last year we actually supplied 147 households, and these are for all tenants that are vulnerable, but it's also helping them sustain their tenancy. It was also about supporting tenants with benefit advice, and that's what it's used for as well. There's also a hardship fund for 16 to 21-year-olds to sustain their tenancy, and that is up to £1,000 in value. But this is for the young persons that comes through the young persons pathway, and it's also about introducing a decent home standard, and it's the Kirklees housing standard. We've been successful in bidding into grants for the green agenda to retrofit. We're working with a charitable organisation to offer energy advice, debt advice with organisations and tenants that we have out there. I think what's the most important thing is with the HRA and all this, the tenant's voice is crucial in all of this. So as we move on, it's also about keeping tenants safe. There's new health and safety regulations following the Hackett review. We all know what happened at Grenfell, that tragic event. It's about keeping tenants safe in their blocks, new accountable managers to ensure that the safety requirements are in place, and major safety, fire safety improvements. That'll be from blocks to fire doors, sprinklers and detections, and also the car compartmentation. It's about keeping home safe, about working with tenants. It's about looking at what the standards are, particularly where the gas, is it compliant, and the electricity testing, water, asbestos. So it's a continual rolling program. So this is why the rents and increases are needed annually. And I have to remind you that we did have a period where we reduced it by 1% for 4 years, but had a great impact on us. So moving on, the other part of it is investing in housing. This money will be used for investing in housing. It's 100 new homes per annum over the next 10 years. We're looking at major regeneration in high-rise blocks, and also about pods and loft extensions to tackle overcrowding, because that is part of what's happening today, overcrowding and people unable to sustain their tenancies and returning home. So there's a lot of that's happening. It's also about specialist accommodation for meeting the needs of people with mobility problems. Also, we're looking at introducing a digital assistive technology in all homes to assist home working. So we're looking at that to see how we can assist people. It's about environmental improvements and to provide better open spaces. Now, I think it's about a whole package as well. If we want to improve people's lives, it's looking at the whole environment. It's not just about the house. So it's about regeneration programs throughout all of the estates. And it's about, there will be energy efficiency schemes going out there and pilot schemes. So today I'm coming to ask Cabinet to support me with the approval of the 1.5 CPI plus 1% increase of the dwellings of the rent for 2021-22, and also this to be for garages and other service charges. This is an annual uplift on the garage and service charges of 1.5%. There is also an exception, and it's about the extra care services that we actually have. And if you go to 6.7 in the report, I'll just read it out for point of clarity so everybody is aware. There are 2 service charges which are commissioned by the council's adult social care. It's for a nighttime security service charge. It provides staff presence and extra care schemes overnight, and to respond to emergency calls made by tenants during the night. The charge the tenants pay for this service is 50% of the total cost, and the service charge is eligible for a housing benefit. The total cost of this service needs to increase by more than the inflationary amount, as the cost of increasing is due to the uplift in the national living wage. So an increase of 2.2% is proposed. There's also the intensive housing management service charge. The charge provides managers presence in an extra care schemes and the provision of housing related support services to tenants to help them maintain their tenancy. The cost of this service needs to increase by 2.75%. So I ask Cabinet to support this recommendation, and it's about the whole package, what we're actually delivering through the HRA, and we need to sustain our estates and the standards of our property. So I ask you to support officers' recommendation as set out in section 9 of the report.
Thank you. I'd like to second that. Andrea, can you take us a roll call, please?
Yes, Chair.
Vote this, yeah.
Yeah, yes, voting on the recommendation.
Sorry, Martin, have you got your hand up?
Oh, okay.
Martin?
Yes, thanks, Shabir. Yeah, thought you would have. Yeah, thanks for that, Kathy. Just an explanation, if you could. Appendix 1, and I think you've just partially referred to this, which is obviously the detail where the devil is. We've got 2 bands of charging, the housing benefitable service charges and PFI service charges.
Yeah.
And I was just looking at the differential for the communal cleaning, whereas the proposed change which will come in is from 91 pence to £7.06 under the housing benefitable charge services, but then £10 to £13.61 under PFI, a whacking increase. I was also looking, does everybody get a levy for window cleaning? Because again, I don't know how many people would get any windows cleaned at 20 pence a throw. Certainly when I was doing that, I wouldn't have been cleaning many at 20 pence a time. And you've just mentioned there the 2.75% increase, which takes the hourly charge, I presume it is, up to £60.91 at the maximum. Yeah, who on earth has to pay that £60.91, Kathy?
Right. I'm just trying to find my notes on this for you, Martin. I'll be absolutely honest. Martin, would you be all right if I put this in writing to you? Because I've got that many documents in front of me. Just bear with me. I'll see if I can pull it up. Just bear with me. I'll be 2 seconds.
No, it's okay.
I'm happy to provide it to you in writing, and
written will be fine, Kathy. Thanks.
Do you know what would be nice, actually, Martin? Now you've touched on this, it'd be nice to circulate a paper to show what the HRA is actually spent on, and the rationale behind it as well. So I'll definitely get that straight out to you, Martin.
If I may, Shabir, then if there's a paper going to all councils, Kathy, that gives an explanation. Then take that away from. Don't bother with a written response specifically on that. I'll look forward to the wider paper. Thanks, Kathy.
Okay then. Thank you.
Thanks, Martin. Thanks, Kathy. John, you want to speak? You got your hand up, Councillor John Lawson.
Thank you, Chair. So yeah, just a couple of points. One is that the 2.75% on sheltered housing does stand out rather. It kind of snags the eye. I'm wondering of what kind of measures have we looked at to level that out, to bring it more in line with the rest of the population, because it does seem a little bit, I don't want to use the word discriminatory, but it does seem a little bit more impactful than the rest of the population who are renting from us. So I think an explanation on that is probably due in the papers somewhere. Right. The other thing that I would say is the guarantee that this uplift will be spent on the type of experiences that our tenants have every day. So, for example, I'm dealing with somebody at the moment who has a 25-year-old boiler. They're insisting on repairing a leak, and it's cost. This boiler is 25 years old. It's inefficient, and it's costing an absolute arm and a leg to keep going, to keep feeding it gas. And it's those kinds of things that you'd hope that this kind of uplift would be spent on. But with K&H coming back in the house, is that it might be easy to lose the sight of that. And it's just how we're going to nail down how that money is going to be used and what it's for. Thank you, Kat.
I think you're absolutely right, John. That was one of the questions I have been asking, that we maintain a service, particularly with that case. If you'd like to pass me the details, I'm a little bit concerned that they're trying to keep using the boilers. A lot of the boilers were supplied in decent homes when we did the decent home standards and had the rollout many years ago. A lot of them are coming to their end of life. So in that particular case, John, I'll take that up. But the housing revenue account is about raising the funds in order to keep our and maintain our homes to a decent standard. So, John, if you drop me an email, I'd like to take that one up for you.
I will do.
Thank you.
Will do. Is a short supplementary?
Yes, John.
Yep. Okay. Thanks. And it's about the safety assurance work that the uplift is going to be funding as well. Yep. I'm hesitating about using an uplift and rent for safety assurance work. I'm not sure quite where we should stand on that. Could you give us a little bit of the detail behind the reasoning, because it does seem a little kind of a responsibility that we should be taking on anyway post Hackett, and that the reasoning behind the private landlord is slightly different to ours. Just wanted to sort of have a bit of clarity on that.
Absolutely, John. Just bear with me. Sorry, absolutely. Regarding the new health and safety regulations, they followed from the Hackett review, and it was about keeping tenants safe in the blocks and safety equipment. So it required major fire safety improvements in the block. So it's the fire doors, sprinklers, detection and compartmentation. So all that has been an element that it's not that they weren't safe, but as we move through and we progress, and they're finding more and more materials that they think that we now have to explore whether they're fit for purpose. So a lot of that is going to be addressed.
So forgive me, but the question was about who should pay morally, really. That's
morally.
Kind of yeah.
Well, yeah.
We know the answer to that. The government.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
Morally, John, I was
right.
trying to keep it non-political, this, but morally, the government should be paying for this. They should be paying for this. It's added pressure to our tenants and people out there.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong getting political. You know what I'm saying?
No,
you know,
I just feel that we're in a fragmented society now, where we're separated by internet, and that's the only connectivity we've got with people. And it's I worry about the pressures that we're putting on people, and these rent uplifts and anything that is coming over the hill. It's about managing it the right way, and I just feel if I keep attacking, we might cause problems for ourselves in the long run, because they're not going to give us it any extra, and we've got to find it from somewhere. And I want to sustain a service that's, you know, that people deserve. So
okay, thank you very much. Andre, do you want to take us through the roll call, please?
Yes, Chair. Voting on the recommendations moved earlier by Councillor Scott. Councillor Pandor?
Yeah. 4.
Councillor Davis?
4.
Councillor Kendrick?
4.
Councillor Mather?
4.
Councillor McBride?
4.
Councillor Patterson?
4.
Councillor Scott?
4.
And Councillor Turner?
4.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much. That's been proposed and seconded by me, and the Cabinet's fully endorsed it. So we'll move on to the next item, which is item 10, Community Infrastructure Levy. Next steps, can I invite Councillor Peter McBride to move the recommendations and present the report? Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Shabir. SIL, as the government has abolished the SIL, Community Infrastructure Levy, and they're going to replace it with a national levy, there's no point in continuing our proposal. It's worth pointing out that we and many other local authorities spent a huge amount of time trying to introduce one. Some authorities had already introduced it. However, that's now history. The change in planning rules now allow developers' contribution to be pooled and used to fund infrastructure proposals via Section 106. So we'll see contributions accordingly. It's not as satisfactory, and I think the amount we will get will be more limited, because a bigger proportion of the total will go to the National Infrastructure Levy. Summary of the report, Chair. I'm moving the recommendation.
Yeah, you move the recommendations. I've seconded the recommendations, and now I've got 2 members who have indicated that they want to speak. So first person is Martin Ball.
Thanks. And may I say that seconding of the recommendation was the most eloquent you've been all the time. Your microphone was switched off.
Thanks. Martin, yours is now off.
You couldn't make it up, the irony of that.
I think the staff have done that on purpose.
See, Martin.
I think the staff did
My
that.
hands are here. I didn't know nothing.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
Richard. Anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry, Martin. Go on. Sorry.
Thank you. Just in case anybody missed one of your last comments to Kathy, I think what you said was there's nothing wrong with being political to her. So I'd just to make sure
polite with it, yeah, but there's nothing wrong with politics, man. I don't want to be in politics.
I was just clarifying that I know now that we obviously, because of changes, we are not pursuing the community infrastructure levy. Could I ask Peter, therefore, that we ensure that the administration beefs up the collection and oversight of the current Section 106 process until that changes? We have situations where triggers for payments, triggers for work to be done are passed, and it's the ridiculous situation because, unfortunately, I suppose not all developers are as trustworthy as we would hope, where the developers don't tell Kirklees that they've got X number of houses sold or occupied. And in some cases, and where we had it in Murfield, £80,000 for a local school was lost because it wasn't collected. And the developer, I believe, came off the site and wound the company up. So could we have some oversight of the Section 106 so that, and if necessary, regular reports to ward members so they can keep an eye on developments and help Kirklees and make sure that we don't lose more money for stuff like education in Murfield? Thanks, Peter.
Yeah, I take your point, Martin. I think the problem is following through money to be spent, and often takes place over years. You've got various different departments in many situations trying to claim on the same amount of money. But keeping absolute tabs on this isn't easy. You're right, though. There is a danger of a big slip between cup and lip, and that money just goes down the drain. And I think you're right. We should do more to ensure that money isn't lost that way. I think in more recent years, the council has been much better at ensuring that the money is forthcoming and gets to the place it's intended. But you've got a point. You've got a good point, Martin.
Supplementary, please, Shabir.
Yeah, supplementary. Before I bring the supplementary, Martin, I'm getting a bit worried because it's the second time Peter's agreed with you in the same meeting twice.
Normal service will be resumed.
I think it's a sickness.
Anyway, Martin, your supplementary.
Thank you, and let's see if we can go for a hat trick then, Peter. On planning agreements, there are a number of contributions that sometimes come in. We're seeing where there's a contribution towards a travel plan coordinator. There's a contribution towards other things. Could we look, therefore, at having a contribution towards planning compliance and enforcement so that developers are actually paying for the work of overseeing what they're doing, as you say, so we don't get that slip? Let's make the developers pay for us keeping an eye on them.
That's a reasonable point. It's something we could pursue. I don't disagree with you. The problem is keeping sight of an amorphous amount of money to be spent on a range of different things, including the follow-up, because that itself is costly, point you're making. So yes, there should be within the total fund money for that as well. But my heart goes out to people who are trying to keep, which is some sense of order and understanding about what money is due to the council and following it up and doing that diligently. I think it's a tremendous task, very difficult task. It's like trying to plait fog.
Right, thanks for that. That makes bloody hat trick, right? God knows, what the world's coming to. But anyway, thanks a lot, Martin, and thanks, Peter, for your responses. Alison, you've got a.
Yes, Shabir. Thank you. Yes, as you're now planning to adopt the government's proposed nationally set infrastructure levy, I'd like to know, will the council be better off by doing this?
I don't think so. The money will be forthcoming to the central government. Another example of increased centralisation at the expense of local government. We don't have a choice on this. The government has simply said that money will go into a national infrastructure. The money will go to the centre and be determined accordingly. And this, I think, is another indicator of centralisation rather than decentralisation. So all these devolution measures are against a backcloth of continual centralisation of government. So I'm not at all convinced that devolution has any significant meaning whatsoever. That's slightly strange to me.
Okay, I've got a supplementary, please.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then does the council have any plans in place to replace the anticipated losses in areas designated for neighbourhood plans?
Well, the council has no resource to replace. The council has got to work with the resources which are made available to it. And what this paper is saying, we might be able to retrieve a significant proportion, and I doubt it, but we might be able to retain some via Section 106, but not in a satisfactory way. And I think we all agree that SIL would have been a much better mechanism and given us a lot more control of a larger sum of money.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. I don't have anybody else indicating to speak, so Andrea, do you want to take us through the roll call, please? Peter moved it and I seconded the recommendation, so let's go for the vote.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Councillor Pandor.
For.
Councillor Davis.
For.
Councillor Kendrick.
For.
Councillor Mather.
For.
Councillor McBride.
For.
Councillor Patterson.
For.
Councillor Scott.
For.
And Councillor Turner.
For.
Thank you, that's carried.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Thank you, members. Move on to item 11, Dewsbury Town Deal, Town Centre Investment. Can I invite Councillor Peter McBride?
Thank you, Chair. We're seeking 25 million for a town deal. Thus, we have put together a town investment plan by the town board. It's chaired by the leader. You'll want to make some further comment on that. The board consists of people from business and from the community, from further education, as well as the local MP. Their strategy is based on the Dewsbury Blueprint, and it's been subject to consultation, though that has been somewhat limited because of the current pandemic and the inability to undertake the degree of consultation we would normally. The bid is matched by 33.6 million of council investment money and from the private sector and other government sources. The council is additionally committed and is going forward with a proposal to refurbish the market and the arcade, major schemes in their own right, which will be additional investments. And to that you can add the investments already taken place in the rail station, not to mention Pioneer House, which of course was the base of the whole regeneration programme. So it's a huge programme. Additionally, of course, the council will invest strategically in the town centre, particular buildings, particularly with regard to housing, trying to refurb some of the buildings in such a way as to enable them to afford town dwelling. It's been a policy that's been ongoing for something like 7 years already. It's been highly successful in Huddersfield as well as in Dewsbury. So that will be additional and an expansion of the Dewsbury programme. So putting it all together, there's a big programme for regeneration of the whole of Dewsbury. It's already taken place.
Right, thanks, Peter. Yeah, I'd like to second that, and no doubt other members will want to come in. Just to quickly re-emphasise that I chair the board at the moment, but the whole idea was to actually get an independent chair, and we have now got one as an interim. We're out for recruitment to actually seek a permanent independent chair. The person who's actually agreed to do it is somebody called Rob Norris. He used to work for the Combined Authority. He's worked for various other organisations and he's doing some work for the university. Rob is very, very good. He's just started very, very recently, but he's agreed to do the job for the time being. So I will be stepping down, and I'll still be on the board, and I'll be looking at getting a substitute just in case I can't make it. But just to speed things up, the next stage will be to actually meet the first MHCLD milestone. So after this report is approved, it will then go through various other checks and balances from officers, and then we will need to submit this bid to government. And I believe that it's as good as it can be based on the criteria they've set. So the next role will be for MHCLG, Robert Jenrick, his department, to basically approve this. I've already had a chat with Mark Eastwood. Mark Eastwood is very much in favour of this. He sits on the board as well. So we just hope that the next stages go ahead swiftly, so we can get on with actually delivering on the ground. Kathy, you want to speak?
Yeah, it's just a general comment. I welcome this report, and I think it shows good partnership working and still vision and commitment of this cabinet and others outside the cabinet supporting Dewsbury as a town. Now, day in, day out, I hear it from opposition members that there is no investment coming into Dewsbury. This is proof that there's a board, there's vision, and there's commitment. And I wish they'd take time to reflect when they say Dewsbury gets nothing. Well, they want to think about the smaller little villages and towns that aren't higher priority than Dewsbury and Huddersfield. So I'd just like to commend officers and all involved in this. And I just welcome this report. It's good news.
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, and good point well made. Something that we haven't mentioned is the inward investment could actually potentially be 58 million quid. So it's not just the money that Peter mentioned. There's also opportunity for inward investment. Now that we've actually gone through this first hurdle, officers will now be working up the next tranche of the Towns and Villages Fund, which is an extra pot of money that we've actually put aside for the other towns, Hecklewhite, Batley. People bang on at me as well, so it should be worried about Batley. You've got to bear in mind that it's only, 2 or 3 years ago when we put an investment budget. So we've got plans rolling for Huddersfield. We've got plans now rolling for Dewsbury. We will be also now developing plans for the rest of the borough. Batley will be part of that, and I'm hoping that very, very soon we will have some plans in terms of what our commitment will be to a place like Batley, to make sure that we do actually level up locally as well. But that leveling up can only be done if we get central government support and central government funds. And I will be doing whatever I can to work with opposition MPs and national government to make sure that we get the best deal for every single part of Kirklees. So without further ado, I've got nobody else who'll put their hand up. So Andre, do you want to take us through the roll call, please?
Yes, Chair. Councillor Pandor.
4.
Councillor Davis.
4.
Councillor Kendrick.
4.
Councillor Mather.
4.
Councillor McBride.
4.
Councillor Patterson.
4.
Councillor Scott.
4.
And Councillor Turner.
4.
It's carried, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, members. Item 12 is the locality-based unclassified roads programme. Councillor Naheed Mather will introduce and speak on this. Thanks, Naheed.
Thank you, Leader. I am very pleased to bring this report to Cabinet. Another investment, a Labour administration investment of 15 million in unclassified roads and pavement improvements. The budget for this programme was approved last year at annual council. This additional funding is a highways capital plan to help address the backlog of unclassified roads in Kirklees that require immediate repair, currently estimated to be standing at 152 million. This network of unclassified roads is over 1,440 kilometres, and those of you who don't know your kilometres from your miles, it's 895 miles long. And an important part of the place-based infrastructure in our local communities, particularly as more people are walking and cycling in response to the pandemic and restrictions in place. So a place-based approach was designed to engage with all our councillors in response to the restrictions on face-to-face meetings imposed by COVID lockdown. It included a webinar that was held in August of last year. 23 ward meetings were had with councillors. And I would like to say a special thank you to all the highway staff that were involved, because it is an indicator of a very successful and positive engagement exercise, which not only was it positive, it enabled our councillors to gain a better understanding of highways asset management and officers to have a deeper understanding of the place-based context and councillor priorities for their wards. 450 unclassified roads and pavement sites were identified by councillors as their priority, with a value standing at more than 41 million. Of course, the value of the priority is more than the total programme of 15 million. And the remaining available programme of 11.8 million over 3 years, because 3.2 million has already been spent. This unmet demand at a local level demonstrates the value of this investment made by the Labour administration in unclassified roads, and unclassified roads are not recognised in the same way by the government. A number of options were considered in the development of this programme, and a needs-based methodology was selected as a reflection, as it reflected the variations in network length more appropriately than the other options, and enabled us to address the higher priorities identified by ward councillors. The proposed programme is developed from councillors' top priorities to deliver a minimum of 3 schemes per ward and investment on or near the allocated funding for each ward. This provides a programme of over 120 schemes to a value of 11.8 million, which is detailed in Appendix 8, bar 2 wards, namely Kirkburton, Birstall and Birkenshaw, who are currently putting forward extra schemes with officers tomorrow and will be finalised by the end of this week. The 3.2 mentioned from a 15 million investment was spent on hotspots and other targeted investments, and was delivered during autumn to ensure that our ensure protection of these lengths of road networks before the winter season, especially the hotspots. The benefits of the programme of over 120 proposed schemes are outlined in section 3 of this report, and I would like officer recommendations at section 10 for the cabinet approval, and those are mainly: 1, the methodology of place-based councillor engagement described in this report; 2, the fundings allocated and the creation of detailed locality unclassified roads programme to the value of 11.8 million as shown in Appendix A; and 3, the designation of powers to the service director in consultation with the cabinet portfolio holder for environment to enable amendments in accordance with the council financial regulations for the purposes of expediting efficient delivery of this programme. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. I've got a couple of members to want to come in, so I'll bring Councillor Liz Smagin first. Liz?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that for the Birstall and Birkenshaw, there is a costing that is missing from what we requested, in that only part of a road has been costed. So hopefully that will be put right this week if this cabinet report is agreed. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz, for that clarification. Yeah, sorry, no, it's
yes.
clarified. So we'll be able to, yeah. Councillor John Lawson.
Thank you. A couple of similar comments actually. In Cleckheaton Ward, I know we highlighted Serpentine Road as a priority. Now, I think that is there another category here that is capital investment that some of these roads are being addressed under? If not, I'd like to have a further discussion about that. One of the other things that I point out as well here is that we have a Highfield Terrace as one of our priority roads. It's actually Highfield Road. So if we could have that clarified as well, thank you.
Okay.
Do you want to just address the issue that John
yes.
I think Liz and Liz as well, just give some assurances that everything is done.
Yes, Councillor Smage, the costing is missing because you're having meetings tomorrow to finalise the list, and if there is a part is not costed, that will be costed.
Yes, so that's what she said.
That will be done and a finalised list made on Friday. And Councillor Lawson, this is one pot of investment, and the 3.2 million did actually put right some of the hotspots that needed immediate repair before winter. And and in terms of Highfield Terrace, it's not a terrace, it's a road, that will be adjusted. Thank you.
Thanks, John. And thanks, Nahid. I'd like to second the recommendations Nahid made, but just a few points.
Leader. Councillor Davis was going to second the report.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go on, sir. Yeah, but before you do a second, I just want to say a few words.
Yes,
firstly, the way officers have actually conducted themselves in terms of bringing this report here today, I've got to say a big thank you, because it's been extremely difficult. It's always difficult when a place like Kirklees is so diverse and it's got different needs and different issues in every single ward, and to actually divide that total amount up fairly and squarely is very, very difficult. I genuinely believe that this is actually a very fair report. It's treated every single area properly, and we've not tried to play politics with this. We've made sure that everybody gets their fair share. So that's the only comments I want to make. Paul, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to second this and certainly concur with your comments, Shabir, and with the comments made by Nahid in moving this. So I'm not going to repeat those, but certainly for me, a very key area that's come out of this is the way in which we've seen across a number of wards real cross-party working and a real ability for us as councillors to focus on benefits to our citizens and put into side, if you like, party politics in that regard. So I think the place-based approach, the way in which we've collaborated and worked in a constructive way has been fantastic, and I have to give huge credit to the officers in actually facilitating that, because my experience in my ward of the help that the officers give in making sure that happened and working with us and adapting to different approaches from councillors was fantastic. So I think this is a great example of what we can do when it comes to looking at particular initiatives and services for our citizens going forward. I certainly also congratulate us, as certainly the administration in finding this money, and hopefully in the future, who knows, we might be able to find something further as well. So I'd like to second this on that basis.
Thank you, Paul. Angela, do you want to take us through the roll call, please?
Yes, Chair, thank you. Councillor Pandor?
4.
Councillor Davis?
4.
Councillor Kendall? 4. Councillor Mather?
4.
Councillor McBride?
4.
Councillor Patterson?
4.
Councillor Scott?
4.
And Councillor Turner?
4.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. Thank you, members. We now move on to item 13. But can I just check before we go into that, and I pass on to Peter, that we've all read the private confidential report at item 15, so we don't need to go into private session. So it's on that basis that Peter is going to be speaking and moving his recommendation. So we all agree with that. Thank you very much, members. Peter?
Thanks, Shabir. The decision to support this investment symbolises what the Property Investment Fund is really all about. The fund is about supporting key investments in the town centre. And of course, Kingsgate was one of the linchpins originally of the original redevelopment of the town. It, yet again, 25 years later, is a linchpin in the redevelopment of the town. It's been consistently supportive to the overall development of the town, and I have every confidence that this proposal will lead to a significant enhancement. So a cinema to be introduced, plus a dining place, will massively improve the area and change the balance in Kingsgate. One can see a future of Kingsgate very largely interrelating shopping with the cinema activity and the dining. So on that basis, there's confidence in the proposal and in the owners of Kingsgate to achieve this. I think it's a very good investment. It's exactly the sort of thing we ought to be doing. I propose it.
Thank you, Peter. I think this is a really good report, and I think it's come at the right time, because to get the investment that Peter's talking about, a cinema and everything else, where the students are, but not just that, but the added benefits that will bring to Huddersfield. And I think it'll be at the right time, because I don't know about you folks, but I am just hopefully looking at the light at the end of the tunnel once this vaccine's rolled out and we get back to some kind of normality. And one of the first things, hopefully, or one of the things I will do once it's developed, is to actually go around Kingsgate, because it's times like this you realise that the attraction you've got on your doorstep. And I've been, working for Huddersfield for many, many years, and it's only now that you realise that the beauty spots that we've got on our doorstep. I'm feeling a bit positive this morning and today, that I'm genuinely positive that once we get back to some kind of normality, I think it's going to actually make people appreciate what they've got, and there'll be a new kind of bounce back, not just in terms of the economy, but in terms of people, in terms of how we appreciate each other and how we look out for each other, and that in itself will actually create so much more growth, not just economic growth, but also social growth, diversity growth, people growth, you name it, because. I think people are now just fed up with being in lockdown. We've got to stay in lockdown. We've got to be in restrictions. But if we do all our little bit, if we keep the rates down in terms of infections and death rates and hospital admissions, and if we carry on doing our investment planning like we are doing, and if we're committed to that focus in terms of that growth we're looking for, I can see a great future for the people of Kirklees. So, without further ado, Graham, you want to speak?
Yeah, just to add to what Pete said, this is the right time to be investing. As he pointed out, Kingsgate was an economic driver in the past, and we all know that the shopping experience, what people go into town for, has now changed, and it's right we back this and we move forward into whatever the new normal, which is a good word I don't like, but whatever the new normal is, this is the time to do it. We need to rebuild the local economy, and this is a step in that direction. I totally welcome this report and this investment into Huddersfield.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Here, so I've got nobody else putting their hands up. So, Andre, can we go and do a roll call, please?
Yeah, Councillor Pandor.
For.
Councillor Davis.
For.
Councillor Kendrick.
For.
Councillor Mather.
For.
Councillor McBride.
For.
Councillor Patterson. Councillor Scott.
Nothing.
For.
Yeah.
Councillor Turner.
For.
Thank you. It's carried, Chair.
Thank you very much, members. That brings us to the end of today's proceedings. Once again, thank you for the members of the public that were watching and the two that asked the questions. Thank you to the councillors who asked questions, and thank you to all the cabinet members who took part, and the officers who have been actually in the background working extremely hard, diligently making this happen. We've got a whole team to make sure that democracy continues. So once again, thank you very much to our great officers, and good night and God bless.
Thank you, everybody. See you all later. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.